Hi, my name is Rosemary Bennett. I'm a PLU senior in communications and also a content creator for the Department of Marketing and Communications. And I'm here today with Morgan Roberts and Cecilia Lewis to talk a little bit about their experience at PLU. So, can I have you guys start off by introducing yourselves for us?
Yeah. My name is Morgan Roberts. I am a musical theater major, communications minor from Maple Valley, Washington.
And my name is Cecilia Lewis. I am a senior vocal performance major from Tacoma, Washington. We are both roommates, and we've actually known each other for 10 years. We met doing theater, which is fitting considering we're both in performance degrees. But we met doing the Seattle Opera when we were younger. We were part of the youth chorus. And then we stayed in contact throughout different choral competitions and all states and things like that. And then when we both found out we were going to go to PLU, we reached out to each other and we ended up rooming together our first year. And now we're seniors and roommates and we're ready to graduate. But yeah, that's kind of our story.
So, can I have you each tell me a little bit about your PLU experience?
So, my PLU experience actually started out as a music education major. And I switched to vocal performance in my junior year, which is a pretty late time to switch majors while at PLU, but it worked out because so many of the classes are in the music track are the same for both fields. But yeah, I am also heavily involved in the theater department. And so I am on the Clay Crows with Morgan, which is the on campus improv troupe. As well, I've been in Choir of the West and University Chorale as well. I'm also a tour guide on campus, and I've worked in residential life as an RA and a part of Residence Hall Association as well. So pretty heavily involved all the way around. When it comes to kind of why I chose PLU, my mother and my sister both attended PLU, so it's been not something that was gonna be like a part of my family, like everyone goes to PLU, but it just happened to work out that the three of us did. And I always knew I wanted to come to PLU, and I think the biggest reason why when I stepped on campus for that first time where I was like, this is potentially going to be the school that I'm going to go to, it really came down to the students and the faculty are all so supportive in your mission to discern your vocation. And that's where your greatest passions and the world's greatest needs meet. And that being fostered in the PLU experience is my number one priority with my education and with my life as well. And PLU was a place that not only did the faculty and staff support that, but so did the students.
Yeah, similarly to Cecilia, but also a little bit different. I really was drawn to that community that PLU has of care and of really focusing on the student as an individual. However, I didn't know that I wanted to go to PLU until shortly before I decided. Um, I had applied to a bunch of different schools and was looking at a bunch of different programs, knowing that I wanted to study something with theater and something with music, but not really sure. What exact place I wanted to do that at. But when I came to PLU and spoke with the faculty members and saw our beautiful theater, the Karen Hilly Phillips Center, I was hooked. And then talking to Cecilia about why she loved the programs here was a big part of my YPLU story.
And for me, you've also been one of those unavoidable faces on campus. You're fairly involved in quite a bit of extracurriculars as well, right?
Yes, yeah. I am also involved in the Residential Housing Association, apart from theater, involved in the Residential Housing Association as the PR director, and I've done a lot of student media on campus. In addition to theater, I run the student media for Impact, the marketing agency on campus. I ran it for our improv troupe, the Clay Crows, for a while. I'm involved in Harmonic, which is the soprano alto a cappella group, which will be shifting in a little bit. We have some exciting announcements revolving around that. I am in APO, the Theater Honor Society, which Cecilia is also
Yes.
part of, the Clay Crows. and as well as lots of different productions.
Choir of the West.
Oh, Choir of the
Yeah.
West, yes. I love choir. I'm in Choir of the West. I was a part of University Chorale. Yeah, I think I'm remembering everything. Lots of clubs, which
Yeah.
is another reason why I love PLU. You're able to really do it all if you have a heart for it, or even if you don't know if you like it yet.
And I've been lucky enough to see both of you in shows at PLU, quite a few actually, while I've been here. Could you tell me a little bit about what a daily life is like for an art student?
Yeah, Morgan and I have slightly different kind of daily experiences, me being a music major and you being a theater major, but there's a lot of crossover between. But typically for a music student, we have our music core that is in our first 2 years, so your first year and your sophomore year, where you take all of the music theory, ear training, music history, keyboarding, all of those really like core, very important classes. And it's difficult in the beginning because there's a lot of classes and they're usually 1 to 2 credits, but they definitely require a lot of outside practice time. And so that's kind of how it started in the first 2 years of a lot of those core classes. And then as things shifted over, that's when it was more focused towards my degree. And so as an ed major, I was doing some education courses, but when I switched over, then I was doing my vocal performance courses of diction and taking languages and focusing on vocal pedagogy and things like that. So typically classes for a music student were in the morning and morning to early afternoon, and then choir was always 3:40.
3:40 to 5:10.
Yes, 3:40 to 5:10. We would have choir, and choir is a very intense rehearsal schedule, and it's 4 days a week for 90 minutes each day. And that is a time where everyone would go to choir, and then afterwards, usually everyone would walk to the common eating area and get dinner together, which is a very kind of wholesome memory that I hold dear to my heart from choir at PLU. And then typically there would be some sort of 30-minute break, and then it would be on to rehearsals in the evening. So whether that be for a musical or for a play or for improv, there's always rehearsals going on in the evening. And then at some point you find time to do some more practicing and some more homework, and then you wake up and do it again.
Obviously, daily life has changed quite a bit since the start of the pandemic. Can you tell me what that's meant for things that we would normally consider have to be in person, like arts?
Yeah, it's been very interesting, and it has been hard, and it has been cool to see how everybody has shifted, and we've been taking online voice for over a year now. And although it's not ideal, it has still been able to exist, which I think speaks a lot to the resiliency of the arts and the resiliency that PLU has experienced. Tom Smith, who is the chair of the department, I'll shout him out here, who has been a fantastic mentor to me and professor that has really stood out as like making organization at the forefront of each of his classes. And so that's who I work a lot with and have really enjoyed working with.
Yeah, and I think also what's cool is so much in person has been taken away and live performance has been taken away. However, there's been a lot of opportunity that has been in place that we wouldn't have been able to get if we were in person. We've had a ton of master classes and guest artists come to PLU, and we've been able to talk with them over Zoom and get to know them and kind of show our craft with them. And I think also one benefit of doing performance online, as difficult as it can be, is now as we graduate with our degrees, we have a ton of material to be able to kind of advertise ourselves. So I have a ton of virtual performances that have been filmed that I'm now able to post places and use in my professional development. I just did my senior capstone, which is my senior recital, which is an hour of just me singing, but I'll be able to have that because it was streamed. I'll be able to have a video recording of that to be able to keep and use in my professional development. So that's one of the benefits of being online.
And you touched up a bit on this before, but as seniors, you're both going through your culminating projects, what we at PLU call our capstones. What does that look like for each of you, and what are the differences between your departments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for my capstone, mine happened in first semester. So this semester I've been rolling, ready to graduate. But first semester was a little different. But for mine, I made a website, which was very helpful. It's in the first semester, so that when you're doing graduate program auditions, you're able to submit this website and you're able to have these materials ready for you when those graduate school auditions happen in January, February, if that's something that you're interested in. But I made a website. I created videos, the same videos that Cecilia was talking about, where you film yourself doing monologues, 32 bars, full songs, and I was able to also post those to my YouTube channel and just work on online presence, which was awesome. The pandemic.
Yeah, and for my capstone, I actually just finished it less than 4 days ago. But it is a senior recital. So for vocal performance majors, you are required to put on an hour-long recital, and an hour of music of just you is a lot of music. But I had actually been crafting my recital for over a year now with my voice teacher. We had already kind of created my set list and have been working on things for about a year. But typically you would do a small jury where they would hear a selection of pieces that you are going to perform on your recital. They say that you're good to go, and then you schedule your recital. Mine was in Lagerquist Concert Hall, and I was able to have 6 people from one household attend my recital. And like I mentioned before, it was live streamed as well. So I was able to have a virtual audience too.
Cecilia, you changed your major, which can be a really intimidating process, especially so late in your time at PLU. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like coming to that decision and how things have changed for you since?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And I did change my major so kind of late in the game. And like I mentioned before, I switched to another music major. So I was able to do that and not affect my graduation year. But that decision was definitely one that had been weighing on my heart, and was something that not only was it, trying to be intellectual about it and making sure I'm making the right decision for myself, but also knowing that this is something that I needed to do for me. And a lot of students change their majors. It is so normal. And my parents are both music educators, and my mother actually got her degree in vocal performance. So I come from a family of lots of musicians, and I think in my mind, I'd always thought that music education will provide me the stability that I'm looking for while still pursuing art and music and what I love. But I realized by talking with my music ed advisor, Dr. Linda Miller, but I realized I was trying to do 2 things at once. I was trying to do a music ed degree while wanting to perform as a vocal performance major. And the workload of both of those things doesn't add up for a full-time student who also is working while being a student. And what I was missing was the performance. And that is something I've always wanted to do, and I've always let myself do, but I think when it came to deciding a degree, I was focused on stability. And so after talking with her and having a very emotional conversation, and then realizing that this was something that I need to do for me right now, and knowing that I can teach as a vocal performance major, I can have a private studio of students and still, exercise that part of my heart as well. But yeah, it was really scary, and what it came down to for me was doing something for the benefit of myself, and also doing something for me that also is what I can give to the community. And that is what, when I realized I could do both, that became the only option for me. So I was very lucky with the advisors that I had, with the courses that I had taken, that I was able to do that so late in the game. But I'm so glad that I did. Even though a couple months after switching my major, the world shut down and they said, you can't perform live. And I was like, oh no. But it's still the right decision for me.
Yeah, I want to reiterate and uplift what you're saying. I changed my major a million little times during my first 2 years. It's so normal, and you almost should, give yourself that room to breathe within the things that you love. Within the arts and within music, there are so many different paths you can take at PLU, which is simultaneously amazing and intimidating. I changed my major from a communications and theater double major to a theater major music minor. Then when the musical theater major came, I was like, I'll do that. That sounds great. And so just, I would say to prospective students and incoming students, give yourself that room to breathe and that room to have the autonomy to switch your major a couple times. And it's not the end of the world. It's very much the beginning.
Yeah.
And just to speak to that, I've seen you both in many wonderful shows in my 4 years at PLU. You're both wonderful performers, and I think you're heading into a really bright future. Do you care to give us a little hint of what's coming after graduation for you each?
Yeah. So we are both doing kind of big changes in our lives, which is exciting and horrifying. But I will actually be moving the day after graduation to Los Angeles, and I'm moving down with 3 other roommates, and we're all actors moving to LA. But my plan is to pursue a career in vocal performance, and I am working to pursue voice acting, as well as one of my biggest dreams would be to work for Disney as an equity vocalist, and so doing shows and performances within the Disney parks. So that's kind of my goal. Will be, once I move down there, once auditions start opening up again, I'll be there. I'll be at all of them. So that is my plan.
Yeah, and similarly, but in a different coast.
Yes.
I will be in August. I'll spend the summer here. And then in August, I'll be moving to New York to attend the Stella Adler Studio of Acting. I did end up going the grad school route, so I spent most of January and February doing virtual auditions, 3 hours behind New York City. And I will be doing their 3-year professional conservatory for acting, and then hopefully being able to work in the city and work in any city that'll have me, honestly, where I can do theater and improv and vocal performance.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for speaking to me today. Like I said, I'm sure you have a positive, wonderful future ahead of you. And all I can say is break a leg.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.